Let's get talking. Hello, my friends. Hello, my friends. And my name is Carl Long, and welcome to another episode of Let's Talk with Carl E. Long. I hope you're having a wonderful day today. It's 2026. Happy New Year. Happy New Year. This is the first episode of season 2, starting in January of 2026. And it has been quite a year. It has been quite a year. I don't know how yours has went. Mine has been fun, festive. A lot of things have changed. Life changes, job changes, retirement, Social Security, getting older. Just a lot of things have happened in 2025. Lost my mom and my dad. So it was a tough year for me, but you know, I still rise, and I still believe in life and living life as it comes. Live it for today. Enjoy yourself. Find that passion that you love and do that. That's what's going to make your life more fulfilling and something that you're going to remember and enjoy in your life. Find your passion. So today's video is going to be a podcast video. It's going to be a retrospective on 2025. Yes, I wanted to do this at the end of 2025, but time didn't set up the way it should be. So I decided to make it my first episode of the year, just to go back and talk about all of the different episodes I've covered over the podcast year, and then just kind of reflect on some of the things that we did, and what happened in this year of the Trump administration. So it's going to be just a retrospective. So stay with me and let's just go down memory lane of all of the 51 episodes I had of the podcast in 2025. Yeah, not all of them were all so terrible. I did a few things that I want to get back to. Entertainment. Yeah, that's what I really want to do. And I want to have a lot more special guests this year. Just time and allowing and the way things line up didn't happen the way that I wanted to happen this year, but this year it's going to be better. So this podcast began as a way for me contributing to the future of America. I started Let's Talk with Carl E. Long because I believe and still believe that the American people deserve truth in a political climate that has become deeply polarized and deeply divided. From the beginning, I understood that speaking honestly about power, politics, race, democracy, and the Trump administration would come with some consequences. Yeah, putting myself out there it meant opening up doors to criticism, to negativity, at times even very hostile and even threatening comments from the opposition. I say this all the time. The way that MAGA works, they work kind of like Beyonce's beehive, It doesn't matter if you're telling the truth or whatever. They're just going to find you. They're going to say all kinds of things. They're going to give you threats. They're going to call you names. I mean, it's been crazy. Some of the comments that I've gotten from just speaking truth and trying to get people to understand what's right and what's wrong. I mean, there were moments where it was uncomfortable. There were moments when it was unsettling. And yes, there were moments when it was truly scary. I mean, I had one guy who was just really trolling me. And I think that he was trying to find out more information about me. I'm out there. So, my life's a pretty open book as far as who I am, where I live, and things of that nature. I'm one that's out on social media a lot. So I'm easy to find. So it was worth the sacrifice, because this podcast was never about fear. It was about truth. It was about accountability, and it was about making sure every one of us, especially the voices too often dismissed or ignored, could be heard, could be heard in the national conversation. Now, this platform exists to challenge misinformation, to question unchecked power, and to speak honestly about what is happening in this country and what it means for our future. This is my contribution to America. The day that the election, when Trump won, I was devastated, as some of you probably were. I was devastated because I can't believe that we put him back in there. I don't want to say we, I'm saying some of us put him back in there. I don't understand that, and to this day, I never will understand why we put him back in there. But I also think that there was some election malfunction which never got to where it should have gotten. I did a whole episode on that, and I thought it was going to form into something positive that people would look into, but it never happened. But I still believe that there was some election rigging that went on. Yes, some things that happened, and there was a group that covered that very well. And I was just amazed that nobody was talking about it. I was amazed. Roland Martin was the only podcaster that I saw who really gave a platform to this. None of the others would do it just because Trump had made a big deal about the election being stolen. Nobody wanted to believe that this possibly could be stolen, but I believe that there was something that went on. So this is my contribution to America, my stake in the future of democracy, and my commitment to ensuring that every story, every voice, and every lived experience matters. This year on Let's Talk with Carl Long has been a journey through politics, culture, history, identity, and the changing soul of America. Episode after episode, I explore where the country is heading, what is at stake, and how power, truth, and democracy intersect in our daily lives. I open the year with conversations like MAGA regrets, voices from the heartland, and MAGA surge, unchecked power and growing discontent, capturing frustration, disillusionment, and the consequences of political extremism. In episodes like Donald Trump, the people have spoken. America is not happy. Did America vote for this? There was a time there where a lot of people said, I didn't vote for this, but it wasn't as many people that I thought were outraged. There were a few out there like, this is not what I voted for. But all in all, it really wasn't that much outrage. People were still cheering this guy on. Yeah. So the people have spoken. America is not happy. Did America vote for this? We reflected on public sentiment, political fatigue, and the widening divide shaping modern America. We examined democracy through itself through conversations like voter fraud or voter suppression. Does America really need voter registration? And that's a good question. Why can't we automatically be registered to vote at 18? What's wrong with that? Well, that would be the fairest thing in the world. You're 18 years old, you get your voter card, just like you do your license. But the way that the Republicans have tried to gerrymander and change and suppress the votes, it's just not right. So that conversation needs to happen. Voter registration needs to be an automatic thing, automatically registered at 18. We do that for a lot of other things. Why not for voter registration? Now, we explored constitutional threats in episode 34, Constitutional Crisis, Before We Don't Recognize America. And then I talked about how I was afraid that if Trump crossed the line and totally ignored the Constitution, which he has pretty much, he has really just avoided the 3 levels of government and is doing all kinds of craziness. Venezuela, where's Congress in this? I know other presidents have pushed that needle a little bit, but none like this, right? We talked about the Capitol chaos. The attack continues, reminding us that democracy is not guaranteed. It must be protected. We confronted truth, conscience, and the accountability in Truth Interrupted, the Great American Con, unveiling the silence, asking why outrage in fading moments when it is needed most. Why aren't you outraged? We're being conned. We were being conned and people were not outraged. People were not outraged. And I say that because look at where we are now. I hope that people are starting to realize that Donald Trump cares about nothing. He doesn't care about you. If you want to know about Donald Trump, follow the money. Always follow the money. It's about him. It's about power. It's about him getting richer. He could care less about you. He kept none of these promises. None. But you voted for him. Yes, you did. Now, we looked at power, abuse, and manipulation in the issues they don't want you to see, the erosion of trust, and navigating the turmoil, challenging how narratives are shaped and how truth is controlled. We examined policy, institutions, and governance in flooding the zone. Flooding the zone. That's what Steve Bannon started that phrase. He said, Donald Trump, just do everything you can that you can. They just go so fast and flood it with everything you want to do. And the courts can't work fast enough. And it worked. It worked. I mean, we were getting devastated by all the things that he was doing. We weren't used to this stuff. The government's in flooding the zone. Government purge and Musk's disrespect. Elon Musk. Ooh. Are we glad that's over? This guy went through and just totally ripped our government to shreds. I don't know if we're going to ever put it back again. I don't know if that we will ever be able to put that back. I mean, some of the great agencies like USAID, that one really, really, really does trouble me because all those people we used to help and feed, we just stopped. I've heard that there's some parts of it that came back. So hopefully one of those parts is feeding those poor people in other countries. Yeah, that was pretty low for Republicans. Pretty low. We explored the stakes of education and history, dismantling the Department of Education. We visited those things with Trump's Gaza plan, Elon versus the Treasury, and the fate of the Department of Education. What is with them in education? Does that make sense to you? Why don't we want our government to govern how people learn? The reason that education exists is because it was not always fair. The reason we have HBCUs, guys, is because it was separate but equal. We couldn't go to school. We couldn't learn. Those were laws. So the Department of Education was created to make sure that education was always fair to all people of all colors. Yeah. And we ask whether America is drifting toward an autocracy. Is it? I still believe it is. We examined Project 2025 in episode 49. Christian nationalism and the push for Trump's third term. Yes, remember those? And we question the direction and the accountability of Democrats. On track, off course, the fight continues. Democrats, wake up. Yeah, we Democrats got very upset and we just decided they weren't fighting hard enough. Republicans were steamrolling their agenda and Democrats seemed like they were not there. And what did we want? We wanted fighters. Identity and lived experience remained central to our conversation. In Black America, how did we get here? My journey. We connected personal history to national struggle. And then in the dismantling of the DEI, a dog whistle for something bigger, we confronted backlash against equality and inclusion. DEI, woke, all of that. Basically, they're saying, all of you people of color, it's over with now. If you ain't got what you wanted to get right now, you're never going to get it. I always say this. Do they believe that when the Civil Rights Amendment was put into place that all of those racist people just kind of conformed and went away? No, they never went away. They had children. Had children. They were in our government. They were running for politics. They are still here. So until America does right by all the people that it has hurt, nothing is going to be right in America. So getting rid of DEI, you didn't do really anything. You think you did some things, but there are ways. There are ways, and we will prevail. I had a special episode on the Black Hair story. That's when I had my special guest, Yolanda Cooper. We honored heritage, culture, and generational truth. We also explored the culture of storytelling through film. Yes, that was when I took a break from politics, guys. The Wiz is one of my favorite movies, big blockbuster black movies. It was at a time when black exploitation movies were over and the big blockbusters were out, and The Wiz was one of those. I just recently read and saw an article where the only reason why The Wiz was made, it wasn't even going to be made, is because Diana Ross was secured. She was a big name star. She had just won an Academy Award nomination. So Universal came on and took on The Wiz only because of Diana Ross. Now, I also learned that the only other people they were considering was Melba Moore and who was the other one? I can't remember. Melba Moore was considered, and one other person, for the role of Dorothy, but Diana Ross ultimately got it. So Stephanie Mills was never considered for that role, just so you know. All right. We talked about Hollywood Unveiled, The West Side Story, Imitation of Life, Apache Blue, Betty Davis, The Star, and why Lucille Ball risked everything on Mame. This is what I really want to do, guys. I want to get back to that. I reflected on how cinema reveals history, identity, and social change. Now, we also went back into politics and confronted media distractions and the spectacle in Jake Tapper and Joe Biden, the distraction we didn't need. I was so disappointed in Jake Tapper and the book he wrote on Joe Biden. I mean, that was, I think he had an unsuccessful tour because he got so much backlash. Here we are in the middle of Trump and Doge, and this is what you write about, Jake Tapper? I'll never forgive you that. I'll never forgive you that. We talked about American Idol and the divide and how politics was there. And then, should Snoop Dogg get canceled? We examined power plays and political chaos, and the chaos continues. The revenge tour, Trump watch. You're in danger, girl. Yes. And then there was Signalgate. Remember Signalgate? Exposing how outrage and confusion are often used as tools. And through it all, episodes like Let's Talk with Carl E. Long and Unmasking the Trump Agenda, Silence the Herd, the battle for free speech, and government purge, and Elon Musk's disrespect brought us back to the core purpose of this platform. To question unchecked power and to defend democratic values. To stand for truth, even when it comes with risk, even when it requires sacrifice. So looking back on this year of Let's Talk with Carl E. Long, that's the name of my podcast, one message remains clear. This podcast is more than a commentary. It's participation, it's contribution. It is an act of courage in a time when silence would have been easier. And it was a reminder to me to play a role in protecting truth, preserving democracy, and making sure every voice in America is heard. So I just want to thank you guys for listening. Those of you that engaged with me a little bit, I really want to thank you so much. And I never know how much people listen to this. Some people walk up to me and say, I listen to your podcast. And that really warms my heart because I put a lot of work into it to know that somebody was listening to what I had to say. And I just want to thank you for thinking, reflecting, and engaging. Those of you that did, positive or negative, thank you. So I want you to know that this conversation continues and the work is far from over. It's far from over, guys. We got to continue this fight. The Democrats have awoken. They've woke up. They're woke now, and they're trying to do some things. And I expect some things to happen. And we got to check Donald Trump because we got 3 more years of this madness. 3 more years of this madness. And we can't sit back and watch him destroy our country like he's been doing. We've got to check. And guys, and you got to stay vigilant. You must always vote. You must always have a voice and speak when you want to be heard. Speak up. You can write your congressman. Every little voice counts. Every voice counts. You might not be a podcaster or a TikToker or posting anything or whatever, but you do have conversations at work. When someone is speaking something that is not true, stop it out. Give them the truth. Let them know your heart about this country and what you feel. It's so important that we all contribute to making sure that this is the greatest country in the world, which it is and continues to be. But we can't go backwards. We can't go back. So thank you. I really do thank you for joining my podcast and listening to me for 2025. Now, my second episode is going to be totally dedicated to Jasmine Crockett. Yes, I reside in her district now, but I'm so excited she's running for Congress. And people don't think she has a chance, but I do, because she has a different strategy. She's not trying to become center. She's not trying to be moderate. She's not trying to talk people to Republican to vote for. That's not it. That's not the votes are. The votes are in our own electorate. Texas is 65, 72%, I believe, minority. Yes. She's speaking to those groups, the large cities. It can be done. Texas can be blue as long as you stay true to who you are. Don't try to be who you're not. She's not as moderate. That's not who she is. Jasmine's a fighter, and she is going to get out there and do the work. I'm so excited, and I'm going to continue to work on everything I can to help get her elected. Hopefully she'll come on my podcast one day. I keep emailing her team, but one day she'll realize that she's missing a great treat of talking with me. I got a lot of questions for you, Jasmine. So if you come across my podcast, you can find me on social media. Send me a few lines. I'd really like to talk to you. I really would like to talk to you about the great job that you're doing in Congress. So what I want to leave you with now is I've just pulled a few compilation videos of some of the things that went on in 2025. And I just want you to reflect on where we are and know that we have a lot of work to do. And you can't let your guard down. You got to stay vigilant, keep fighting, and know that democracy still prevails and right will always prevail as well. So enjoy this retrospective of videos of what's been going on in America. And it's just a little bit of what we have. So, and thank you so much again for joining me for Let's Talk with Carl E. Long. And here we go. Let's look at 2025 in video. Here we go.
One of the most well-known of the people pardoned by President Trump is one-time leader of the so-called Proud Boys, Enrique Tarrio. He had the longest sentence handed down related to the January 6 attacks, which was 22 years. That's him right after he was released from federal prison. He didn't say much as he got into an SUV and eventually made his way home to Miami, Florida. But he's been talking ever since, and just this week announced during an interview on Newsmax that he now knows what he wants to do next.
I think my future is in politics. I think I'm going to take a serious look at running for office at some point in 2026 or 2028. And I believe that there is a path for that because it is my passion, you know.
Now, normally I love it when someone follows their passion. His passions, however, have led him down some pretty strange roads. I'm not just talking about the whole seditious conspiracy thing, you know, trying to destroy the U.S. government by force. The same government he now says he has a passion to serve. He actually has a long history of criminal activity. Back in 2004, he was charged and pled guilty to grand theft and dealing stolen property, which are both felonies. In 2013, Tarrio pleaded guilty and was convicted of 4 felonies in a fraud case related to the labeling and sale of stolen diabetes test kits, according to Reuters. He was sentenced to 16 months in prison. Now, the judge was going to sentence
these nationwide injunctions.
What I've seen does look like a victory for the Trump administration.
It is just the idea of this power of the executive branch that really is at issue here.
This is the ball game for President Trump's agenda because we know more than any modern president, he loves to govern through executive action.
The big news coming in there. Now, President Trump has faced many
court losses and setbacks among judges, district court judges, appeals court judges around the country. It's led to the freezes and the national injunctions against Trump policies where judges found them likely illegal. And headlines like the one you see on your screen and that have really been a regular part of this Trump era. Indeed, it's common across Trump's first 160 days or so that he has bluntly tested how far he can go. And thus, as you see from the voluminous number of red X's there, he's gotten more smackdowns than other presidents in both parties. That is what we've
from this very low-rated anchor at CB.
Thank you, President Trump. Do you plan to ask President Bukele to help return the man who your administration says was mistakenly deported? The man who was mistakenly deported to El Salvador?
Well, let me ask Pam, would you answer that question?
Sure, President. First and foremost, he was illegally in our country. He had been illegally in our country. And in 2019, two courts, an immigration court and an appellate immigration court, ruled that he was a member of MS-13 and he was illegally in our country. Right now, it was additional paperwork had needed to be done. That's up to El Salvador if they want to return him. That's not up to us. The Supreme Court ruled, President, that if, as El Salvador wants to return him, this is international matters, foreign affairs, if they wanted to return him, we would facilitate it, meaning provide a plane.
So will you return him, President
And you are doing a great job.
Thank you.
Wait a minute. Can you just also respond to that question? Because, it's asked by CNN, and they always ask it with a slant.
Legal settlement, the courts were intervening on this topic. But she had the video where in the video, she was obviously expressed support. And so 100%
she was being a cheerleader for a very unpopular thing.
It was it was a great ad. And I don't say that lightly.
But this is important
in political annals.
And I want to make sure it's not just that this was like the Willie Horton ad of the 2024. Yeah. It wasn't just like a Lee Atwater brilliance. It's that it reflected truth that the voters felt.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
And that because voters felt as if their country was slipping away.
Yeah.
Now, the Democrats have a choice. You could say to those people, you're racist, you're Nazis, you're fascists, you're terrible. Or you can listen and then be like, why is it that a steel worker in Pittsburgh who's voted Democrat his entire life is voting for Trump despite all of the stuff that's been thrown at him?
Yeah, and all the rhetoric that he's thrown at us.
Yes,
in that context.
But it's a pattern, and the trans thing is just one of those things. But the second element was also what we saw under Joe Biden.
Jillian Michaels, the former star of The Biggest Loser and now a MAGA influencer, was on Newsnight last week, and we were having a discussion on the show about Trump's attempts to influence parts of American culture, like the Smithsonian, like the Kennedy Center, and the arts, when suddenly the conversation turned to slavery and race. And Jillian argued that everything in the culture has become now about race.
He's not whitewashing slavery.
So he's not?
He's not. No,
okay.
He's not. And you cannot tie imperialism and racism and slavery to just one race, which is pretty much what every single exhibit does.
Then what really shocked all of us at the table was that she seemed to try to be minimizing the impact of racism and slavery on American history.
Do you realize that only less than 2% of white Americans owned slaves?
But it was a system of white supremacy.
You realize that slavery is thousands of years old?
White people were
Do you know
the slave
who
owners.
was the first race to try to end slavery?
That's an incredibly misleading statistic, because even the Americans who did not own slaves.
First of all, it is a sham that we sit here and y'all pretend as if you care about what the people have to say, but we are going to make y'all listen as long as you will. This map does nothing but divide, distract, and depress. There is this idea that was put out there during his opening remarks that this does so much for black folk. Well, let me tell you, as a black person, it does not. Let me tell you that in this map, to be clear, y'all added two additional Anglo majority seats. Now, when we went through the 21 maps, you added 2 Anglo majority seats, and now you're adding 2 more Anglo majority seats, and then you've decided that you are going to pack and crack, and that is the language that I am going to use because that is the legal language. And I also just want to remind y'all really quickly that it does not look good when you take every economic engine out of my district and then tell me that I am supposed to see.
The president? He's not leaving that White House. Not now, not ever. And if you think he had any intention of walking out on January 20th with a smile and a wave, you haven't been paying attention. We're not even a year in, and he has already laid the groundwork, brick by brick, step by step. And that tired little counterpoint of he can't do that or he's not gonna do that, it's dead, buried, 6 feet under. He's already shown you exactly who he is, a man willing to send an armed mob to attack Congress just to hold on to power. Look at the record. 7 months. That's all it's been. He has now attempted to suspend habeas corpus. He has defied court orders. He has absolutely dismantled entire government agencies, targeting the legal community, universities, the arts, the free press. You want to write those off as presidential power moves?
All right, so anyone surfing social media this week has surely seen this clip of Jillian Michaels saying this about slavery.
Do you realize that only less than 2% of white Americans own slaves?
And while she didn't name a specific year in her claim on CNN, she did tweet this out later saying, "I'm denigrating all of humanity by pointing out that 98% of American white people in 1860 didn't perpetrate slavery." But let's take a look at this claim. Because yes, as the data shows, in 1860, there were 393,975 slave owners in the United States out of a total population of 31,183,582, or just 1.26% of the population. But let's take a closer look at that, because by taking a look at this map from 1860 of the percent of households that owned slaves at the time, we can see that slavery was no longer practiced in the North and was only practiced down here in the South. And so yeah, if we eliminate those 18 free states and only concentrate on the remaining 15 slave states, you can see we get that same amount of slave owners that now have a population of just 12 million. That's almost 19 million off of the original number, which gets us to 3.22% of the population owning slaves. And so yeah, if we eliminate those 18 free states and only concentrate on the remaining 15 slave states, you can see we get that same amount of slave owners that now have a population of just 12 million. That's almost 19 million off of the original number, which gets us to 3.22% of the population owning slaves. But here's another problem. If we just look at the U.S. slave...
The courts are emerging as the last remaining guardrail in Donald Trump's second presidency. Now, Trump has made it clear that he expects the judiciary to bend a knee to him and his authoritarian desires, just like Congress, the other co-equal branch of government. Remember them? Well, today, a Department of Justice lawyer argued before a 3-judge appeals court that a federal judge's order blocking Trump's deportation of alleged Venezuelan gang members without due process was usurping the president's power. It didn't sound like the lawyer was at all that convincing to at least one judge on the panel. Take a listen.
There were no procedures in place to notify people. Nazis got better treatment under the Alien Enemy Act than has happened here. If the government says we don't have to give process for that, then y'all could have picked me up on Saturday and thrown me on a plane, thinking I'm a member of Nicaragua and giving me no chance to protest it. If your argument is we didn't have to do that, it's an intrusion on the president's war powers, the courts are paralyzed to do anything, then that's a misreading of precedent.
Republicans attacking Tesla dealerships around the country. It's pretty wild, actually. The other night, Donald Trump said these are domestic terrorists. Everybody laughed about it and scoffed at it. That video looks like terrorism to me. I mean, it's obviously an organized, coordinated effort, however people are communicating with each other, to do this to people around the country who chose to buy a Tesla at some point in the past, many of whom I'm sure are Democrats who bought them in the first place, all because their entire political worldview is ruled by their emotions. And that's the American left right now. It is one angry mob after another willing to take things into their own hands, up to and including keying, firebombing, and otherwise vandalizing cars and car dealerships and charging stations. It's outrageous. It is terrorism. People ought to be put in jail.
With as much truth as you about Ashley Babbitt. It was a bad shooting. My father can tell you that, anybody.
It's a terrible thing.
I don't know if you know this, but the Department of Justice right now is still kind of fighting that case. The family of Ashley Babbitt is suing the government, wrongful death. The DOJ right now officially is still opposing that lawsuit, trying to justify it. Shouldn't that be something that can just be settled at this point?
Well, I'll look into that. I mean, you're just telling me that for the first time. I haven't heard that. I'm a big fan of Ashley Babbitt, okay? And Ashley Babbitt was a really good person who was a big MAGA fan, Trump fan, and she was innocently standing there. They even say trying to sort of hold back the crowd. And a man did something to her that was unthinkable when he shot her. And I think it's a disgrace. I'm going to look into that. I did not know that, no.
And the officer who shot her, Michael Byrd.
This guy must be honest. Who would say half of these things unless they're being honest, right? Like, because he says the craziest things and does the craziest things. So it was read as honesty, and they would even give him passes for things that are completely inappropriate because they'd say, oh, well, I mean, at least he's being honest, right? At least I know what I'm getting with him. And it's like, no. You don't. And now you're finding out.
I want to talk more about the Trump administration, but I will also want to talk about President Biden, because when other people were pressuring him to step down, even when your caucus was wavering, you stood firmly behind him. And I'm curious how you feel with some of these revelations about his sort of decline in energy and perhaps even mental acuity that we've been reading about, and if it's given you any pause and any regret.
Not a single one. I still stand by the decision to stand with President Joe Biden and then ultimately standing with Vice President Kamala Harris. And I'll tell you why. The average person has not been given the level of access that the average member of Congress has to the president. I never saw anything in Joe Biden that made.
So, were you invited to the Bezos wedding in Venice? Because I wasn't. Maybe my invite got lost in the mail. I don't know. So, okay, we were not invited to the Jeff Bezos wedding, which means that we will be hurt by this budget bill that just passed in the Senate. Because this bill was not written with any of us in mind. It was written to give multimillionaires and billionaires massive tax breaks. That's it. And guess who cast the tie-breaking vote in the Senate? Ed himself, J.D. Vance. And now it's headed to the House of Representatives for a final vote. Donald Trump set an arbitrary deadline of July 4th for Congress to get this bill on his desk for him to sign. And he created this rush schedule because the bill is so horrible. And he knew that if he rushed it, most people would not get the chance to see what was in it before he signed it into law. And that's because what's in it is atrocious. I mean, they are making so many cuts to Medicaid that an estimated 12 to 18 million people will lose health coverage. Keep in mind, Medicaid is for low-income and disabled people. They're slashing SNAP or food stamp benefits because, I don't know.
White churches have not just been supported by white supremacy, they have served as its headquarters. I know you don't want to hear that. They have taught white people that oppression is godly and that power belongs to us by divine right. After the civil rights movement, powerful white people, men, saw that their grip was slipping. Black people were winning court cases. Poor people were organizing. Women were demanding rights. How dare we? LGBTQ people were coming out of their closets. And the foundations of white male dominance were cracking. So they thought, what can we use that no one will question? In 1979, Jerry Falwell founded the Moral Majority. He said it was about championing family values. That was a lie. The real trigger was that the IRS had begun revoking tax exemptions for whites-only Christian schools. Those whites-only...
Let me make one thing real clear. This ain't about injunctions. This is about erasing the 14th Amendment with a smile. We thought the courts were supposed to be the last line of defense, the place where liberty stands tall even when presidents go rogue. But on Friday, in a 6-3 decision straight down party lines, the Supreme Court told us, nah, we good. They let Trump sneak his foot in the door to cancel birthright citizenship. And they dressed it up in legal jargon about equity and injunctions. Oh, but don't get distracted. The real target was always your rights, especially if you was born with brown skin, immigrant parents, or ancestors who came here in chains rather than visas. For a second, it looked like the lower courts might hold the line, right? 3 federal judges had already slapped Trump's executive orders down with nationwide injunctions, telling him loud and clear, you can't just rewrite the Constitution because you feel like it. Immigrant groups were celebrating. 22 states stood up in court. Even the appellate courts said, let this play out. Then SCOTUS slid in like a repo man in the night.
Attempt to influence the 2024 election with the Department of Justice, the Treasury, and the State Departments all announcing a series of actions, including criminal charges and sanctions. Attorney General Merrick Garland says a state-controlled media outlet is behind a $10 million plot to spread disinformation to garner support for Trump. CBS's Scott McFarland has more from the Justice Department.
Just 2 months before Election Day, the Department of Justice accused Russia of an elaborate, sophisticated propaganda campaign to sway voters. 2 Russian officials with state-controlled RT are charged as part of an alleged scheme to work with a Tennessee company to publish stories favorable to Russia, to splinter Americans and dampen support for Ukraine. Both officials remain at large overseas.
The American people were informed when a foreign power engages in political activities or seeks to influence public discourse.
The feds also seized 32 internet domains believed to be tools of Russia's disinformation campaign, directed by Vladimir Putin's administration, with a playbook to push polarizing issues, including inflation, job loss for white.
Well, I mean, the government's one big pyramid scheme, if you ask me.
Yeah, well, you can tell me better than anybody.
Social Security is the biggest Ponzi scheme of all time.
Right, explain that.
Oh, so, well, people pay into Social Security, and the money goes out of Social Security immediately, but the obligation for Social Security is your entire retirement career. So you're paying with you're paying like if you look at the future obligations of Social Security, it far exceeds the tax revenue. Far. Have you ever looked at the debt clock?
Yes.
Okay. There's our present day debt, but then there's our future obligations. So when you look at the future obligations of Social Security, the actual national debt is like double what people think it is because of the future obligations.
I just left a massive citizen.
They were trying to put him in prison for a decade just in New York City. So
if he loses, man, what?
You're fucked, dude.
I'm fucked. If he loses, I'm fucked.
It does seem that way.
I'm a technologist. I know a lot about computers, and I'm like, the last thing I would do is trust a computer program, because it's just too easy to hack. It's too easy to add just one line.
And he knows those computers better than anybody, all those computers, those vote-counting computers. And we ended up winning Pennsylvania like in a landslide, so it was pretty good. It was pretty good. So thank you to Elon. He said, you know, computers are the greatest. He looked at some that were just shipped in, some of these vote-counting computers. He knew it before it even came in the door. He looked like at the back of it. Oh, I know that one. I mean, he knows he knows this stuff better than anyone. And they rigged the election. And now we won, so I'm going to be your president for the Olympics. You don't have to vote. Don't worry about voting. The voting, we got plenty of votes. And we'll have it fixed. Tell us what we're going to feel. We're trying to solve a problem. Don't tell us what we're going to feel.
I'm not telling you.
Because you're in no position to dictate that. Remember this. You're in no position to dictate what we're going to feel. We're going to feel very good.
Feel influence.
We're going to feel very good and very strong.
You will feel influence.
You're right now not in a very good position. You've allowed yourself to be in a very bad position, and he happens to be right about it.
From the very beginning of the war.
You're not in a good position. You don't have the cards right now. With us, you start having
Not playing cards.
Right now, you don't.
I'm very
You're playing
serious,
cards.
Mr. President.
You're
I'm
playing
very
cards.
serious.
You're
I'm
gambling
the
with the
president
lives
in
of
war.
millions of people.
You think-
You're gambling with World War III.
what you're
You're
speaking
gambling
about?
with
What are you
World
speaking
War
about?
III. And
Yeah.
what you're doing is very disrespectful to the country, this country. That's
with
back
all
to you.
respect to your
Far
country.
more than a lot of people said
very
they
respect.
should have.
Have you said thank you once? This
A lot
entire
of
meeting?
times.
No, in this
Even
entire meeting,
today.
have you said thank
Even
you?
today.
You went to Pennsylvania and campaigned for the opposition in October. Offer some words of appreciation for the United States
what
of
are you speaking
America
about?
and the president who's trying to save your country.
Please, you think that if you will speak very loudly about the war, you
He's
can...
not speaking loudly. He's not
Yeah.
speaking loudly. Your country's
Can I-
in big
can-
trouble.
can I
Wait a
answer?
minute. No,
Can
you've
I
done a lot
answer?
of talking. Your country is in big trouble.
I know.
You're not
I
winning.
know.
You're not winning this. You have a damn good chance of
we are
coming out
staying,
okay because of
Mr.
us.
President, we are staying in our country, staying strong from the very beginning of the war. We've been alone, and we are thankful. I said thanks
You haven't
in
been
this
alone.
cabinet,
You
and
haven't
not
been
only
alone.
in this
We
cabinet.
gave you, through
I
this
said thank
stupid
you.
president, $350 billion.
You voted
we gave
for
you
your
military
president.
equipment,
You
and you
voted
men
for
are
your
brave,
president.
but they had to use our military.
What about
If you didn't have
You
our
invited
military...
me.
If you didn't have our military equipment, this war would have been over in 2 weeks.
In 3 days, I heard it from Putin. In 3 days, this is something
Maybe
new.
less.
In 2 weeks, of course, yes.
It's going to be a very hard thing to do business like this.
Again,
I tell you.
just say thank you.
I said a lot of times
that there,
to American people.
Accept that there are disagreements, and let's go litigate those disagreements rather than trying to fight it out.